Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday, the 10th of October, 2023. And I wasn't even going to do a video again today. And even this morning, I was up super early, around 4, could not go back to sleep. I'm just like, I'm overwhelmed with the not only the lack of support for people that are speaking out or trying to speak out and share content like I'm sharing, but sorry, I just got a message. So not only is there no support, but even when I try, and I've been trying now for the last several years to get a larger platform or to be like in a certain position within cabinet in order to try to get this information to people. So it's not like I think I'm this big important person, nor did I leave the Canadian Armed Forces or stop with the international work and stuff like that because of any other reason than I'm being limited and stopped from being gainfully employed with organizations, again, because of my vaccine status, but also because of what I'm sharing. Don't want to listen to it, and it is people that should be listening to it. And when I left, I didn't go on shows or anything like that in order to be a fame whore. Like I was saying in my rant this morning, I did it to get this information out there, right? And so like even at the first Discovery Channel thing that I did, I actually blocked my account and made it private when it started with the airing like the commercials or whatever you want to call it to advertise. And yeah, because like I was just uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And it's just not the way like looking back, you know what I mean? It's not the way that that's been true to myself to get this content out there, right? And I've said this before too. There were certain people that were also like known to watch the show that I was on specifically, and with the people that they were bringing in, right? The narrative would have worked with the January 6th riots, Capitol staged and planned event, like I've shared, and or the Freedom Convoy and stuff like that. They like people were trying to use these people in order to like work um, these these events too. And so I did want to get into what's going on with Israel right now, and this is very much like an equivalent to a 9/11 event. I have said this in uh, in yesterday's video is actually the title of it, and just by virtue of the amount of people in Israel in comparison to the casualties, and there was a lot of casualties. So I'm not saying that there has not been attacks and strikes well coordinated. What I'm saying is people need to look into this stuff because not only were they well executed and likely involved people within government, just like 9/11, um, but there were people that were repeatedly warning them as well for even weeks, and they were not taking these seriously. And then there are also people that have served in the Israeli defense, um, even in the intel specifically, and I could share this video with you, who was saying it would be impossible for these execution, like these strikes to happen without it being a coordinated event. And this is something that we're seeing now also with mainstream media that are saying that there are women that have been raped, and this is the same script and narrative that they were saying also with Russia and Ukraine at the beginning of the war, where they were claiming or alleging. Even I said it that I was incorrect, but yeah, like yesterday I said the defense minister. I didn't mean to say that. Like I'm all over the place with my. It was just on a story, so it's probably gone now. But someone that was working within government, she was a spokesperson or the representative for the war in Ukraine, and she lied and said that there was Russian soldiers that had raped women, and that not only was that not true, and I was saying that right from the friggin' beginning, but it was actually Ukrainian Azov battalion neo Nazis that actually did those crimes that they had, alleged that Russians did. And so it completely spun it. Not only was it not true, but it was actually, well, it was not only was it not true, not only was it incorrect, but it was actually like Ukrainians that did it. And where's that in the media, right? And I will reiterate this: people, friggin' Snake Island, they're also alive and well and did not die. And so let me just look here. I don't know if you can see this, but this is from Flat Earth 46, posted a day ago.
بدك بلاي باك انت؟ طلع هيك ما بيصفي بس في شو؟
See the uniforms? You'll see military uniforms, law enforcement uniforms. There you go. And there are now, and I'll probably show you that too, but there's now even military that dressed up as cops allegedly at the Freedom Convoy. I'll say allegedly. So I'll just back up. So there's that one crisis actor. So there was also they were talking about media towers being blown up.
As I was scrolling,
I shared that information, and I shared the actual article that she's showing here. I actually shared the link to the article too, the real one from May of 2021.
Caught my attention, and it was the fact that media offices and media buildings were being targeted in Gaza. And you can clearly see October 7th, there's the date right there. Here's the video footage that came up about this entire media explosion. This looks, again, like a controlled demolition, which I talked about yesterday, if you want to go to my page and see that. But lucky for me, they left the media headline right here. So all I did to fact check this was put this headline into Google.
That's all you need to do.
Okay. And here it is, how Israel bombed a Gaza media.
All you have to do is literally like media tower, Gaza explosion. It will literally give you that article.
Media tower. Again, why are we targeting the media towers? That's the part that caught my attention to begin with. But then look over here at the date. The 15th of May of 2021. Why are we reusing footage from an old demolition?
Happens all the time. They even use movie footage, and I've shared that as well. This is all over the friggin' world. This stuff is happening, and again, you want this to be something that elicits and triggers another friggin' event. And look what happened after friggin' 9/11. And again, I have skin in this game. 15 years as a fucking infantry officer. Okay, I've lost people overseas and home. Okay, and also people that struggle with so many different mental health issues because of lies. Okay. And also 9/11 being staged and planned, like I've shared repeatedly. Take a look at my other videos. It's very clear to put us into a war, and who profited, like people that were heads of friggin' oil companies, the military industrial pharmaceutical complex, because the pharmaceutical complex is also part of the military industrial complex, ladies and gentlemen, because of all the vaccines that we get right upon friggin' getting in, and then throughout like our the military careers, and with travel and stuff like that, and then the long-term care, like treatment medications that they push on people. They tried to push literally like 9 different friggin' medications on me, and I'm like, no, throughout my whole career. And I'm not saying that there's not a place for medications at all. I'm just saying that not for people if they can get away with managing their stress and stuff like that, and anxiety or whatever you want to call it, without being medicated with it, because of the adverse side effects and stuff like that. And I'm going on all these tangents, but anyways, throughout life, right, with PTSD meds, pain medications, stress medications, and a big thing in the friggin' military too, like at least in Canada, is Viagra and Cialis, like for men, because of like improper functioning, even in men's 20s, and then and then with the therapists and stuff like that, and like mental health stuff that they go through, and even like the physical injuries too, with like the therapies and rehab, and constantly having to like even for myself with my back and my shoulders, like having to work out, because even if I go a few days without working out, it actually like rusts my body. Like I know that sounds ridiculous, but I actually get more sore, and so I have to like keep like lubricating essentially my spine and moving it in a safe way as I can, and so that it doesn't seize up, because I do. Anyway, I'm going on all these friggin' tangents. But
in saying that it's from this war. Now maybe this up here could explain something like.
Nope. So this is a good channel. There's also what's his name? Press for Truth. That also has good videos on that as well. Actually, maybe I'll show the military Canadian cover-up thing. Not all the information in this is correct. Actually, before I do that, maybe I will go back into my watch history and see if there's anything else in here. And again, like some of this stuff, like I didn't really actually watch. It's just for some reason I just clicked and then just didn't get through because it was just ridiculous. Yeah, that one's gross, so gross, annoying. Oh, this one too. I would highly recommend people take a look at Fiona Barnett. Anything else in here? Let's see, what's this?
Appreciate. I'd ask that you please just check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. You don't have to. You can certainly continue to.
So this is Press for Truth. He has some pretty good videos out there. Also, I highly recommend people take a look at him. He's on YouTube and Rumble. Some of the stuff that he gets is not 100%. So for example, in one of his videos about that I'm going to show you with the military, like the aircrafts that they were showing at the beginning, it wasn't during. Sorry, it was really close to us. Wasn't during the Freedom Convoy.
To consume my content absolutely for free. All 5 of my documentary films are free. All my videos.
I don't know if I'll be able to forward ahead with this guy on Rumble. It's so bad for that. Actually, wait, can you even see this? Yeah, okay. Still waiting for it to load, so I'm gonna just go into another video because it's annoying. It's another Rumble video, so bear with me on that. Unless I can actually, that's on YouTube. Actually, no, I'll switch it to YouTube. Because it's surprisingly actually on there still as well. Nope, it's the wrong one. Where is it? No, yeah, it is the wrong one. I'm going to show this one eventually too. I just wanted to show the YouTube one.
Seeing police dress up as violent as police officers during the.
Okay, sorry about that.
This is Dan Dixie reporting for Press for Truth here with breaking news today. As you can tell by the title of this video, the Canadian military appears to have gone undercover, posing as police officers during the Truckers' Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. Now, let me just start by saying that we've known for years about police provocateurs, cops who dress up like aggressive protesters to purposefully cause violence, which then provides the excuse they need to be able to.
And it's not even just cops either now. It's like security professionals and like, you name it, other government agencies. Like even like embeds for like we've got CSIS, CSEC, Global Affairs. Like we got so many. Like just put the pieces together.
Completely clamp down on a legitimate peaceful protest. I've covered extensively how this works in 3 of my documentary films: The Nation's Deathbed, United We Fall, and Into the Fire, where I documented all of this. There was a time I was in Montebello, Quebec in 2007, when 3 police officers were caught red-handed acting as aggressive protesters, throwing rocks in order to provide an excuse to their fellow comrades to clamp down on the protest. They were called out as being cops, and they had no other option than to dive into the police line for protection, at which point it was revealed that
there's no value in that in society. I would argue that that's baiting and actually inciting violence and all that other stuff. And what is the point to this when there are so many productive things that law enforcement can and should be doing and do? Because again, I work with all of the freaking government. And in fact, Helen just wished me happy Thanksgiving and stuff like that as well. And she's Ottawa Police Service is a freaking hero, and someone that's also someone that would never do this stuff, right? She's working for us. And there's other people too, but I just can't say their names.
They were all wearing the same police-issued boots as the Quebec police. Or how about the time I was documenting the G20 summit that came to Toronto in 2010, when undercover police officers were seen breaching a police line for protection. They dressed up as Black Bloc rioters and they set their own police cars on fire. That ended up providing the excuse for the largest mass arrest in Canadian history, as the police then violently clamped down on yet another legitimate peaceful protest. So, seeing police dress up as violent and aggressive protesters is really nothing new. But disguising the military as police officers in order to deal with protesters is a whole other level of plain dirty and criminal activity. Back in February, during the Freedom Convoy protest, the Canadian government insisted that the military would not be used or deployed in any way to deal with the Freedom Convoy truckers rally in Ottawa. However, it was revealed that Canadian Special Forces conducted flights over Ottawa protests despite military directive. Canadian Special Forces operated an aircraft equipped
And first of all, anyone that was down there, there were snipers on the rooftops and stuff like that. So again, there's also the Parliamentary Protective Services and stuff like that as well. But there were also in beds within the crowds that I saw myself. There were freaking drones and the aircrafts and stuff like that. I see this all for myself. And so don't. Oh yeah, and I was also talking to people that were like on the perimeter essentially, or staged and ready to go if there was anything that were to happen, which is my Marco Menichino, who's should be living in disgrace, or who actually should be in jail, he's the one that was trying to incite like a riot situation, just like January 6th. And I don't even know where I was going with this. Also using law enforcement, like a couple of guys, like not everyone, again, they were talking about tanks and stuff like that and employing tanks. And so like, why would you be talking about deploying tanks? This idiot that's never even served in the military, or nor can he even do one push-up to even pass the basic military standard. Oh. But yeah, like but he had that, like they were ready to go, and I was talking to people that were even like commanding officers, and just giving information, and then people within like this, like other government organizations saying that this was not what you think it is. I don't know. I was gonna play again. Like yeah, like that Rumble video is still like being processed to play, and I'm getting salty too because like there are people that I know personally that have been on like Alex Jones and Sean Ryan, like these bigger platforms where these people are propagandists, control that opposition, but they have platforms where like I could get this information out or try to, like with Joe Rogan and stuff like that. And that's again, like that's even to say that even if I went there and gave him all the proof, like what would he actually share and edit out and share to the world and stuff like that, especially the flat earth stuff that I talk about and 9/11. Like I give a lot more proof than even Eddie Bravo, in my humble opinion. And but that's by design, right? I'm sure Eddie Bravo has given a lot of strong arguments. It's just never gonna get edited, right? I'm sure he's given a lot of friggin' proof that just didn't get put up. Yep. And but anyway, it is what it is.
With surveillance equipment over protests in downtown.
Oh yeah, so like I've been reaching out to these people, these guys that have gone on these shows and stuff like that, and to try to give information to, because they're still not tracking a lot of the stuff that I'm friggin' tracking. And so it's like to give that like information, they don't want to look, they're refusing to look at it, they're on their friggin' the fan whore stuff, you know what I mean? Where they're just like all they care about is themselves, and like traveling, you know, and music video, all of this stuff, and women and drugs, and sex and drugs, sex and rock and roll and stuff like that. And they're not caring about Canada or the situation that we're in, or the fact that they wasted their platform. You know what I mean? When it could have, like, when people like me could have been on and even warning about the stuff that's been going on with over the weekend and stuff like that, and more. And it's unfortunate that I don't even get a carrot. You know what I mean? It's been friggin' years that people are stealing my work. I'm not stealing because I'm giving it freely, and I want people to have this information. But I also like give credit where credit's due, only when it's necessary to get information out on a larger scale, so that we can warn people off, so that they can have informed consent for like future endeavors. Like because this is not going to get better for people, especially in Canada. Look what's going on even with the freaking censorship bills that even now are going on, even with independent journalists or podcasters having to register. And I have mentioned that it's only if you have $10 million in revenue and above, but that's for now. And it even says it. And the people that are regulating this, these are people that are friggin' censoring us. You know what I mean? That censored us about like therapeutics and so many other things that you see on my friggin' channels.
Ottawa, just.
And so military involving themselves when they have no business, like that's a friggin' red flag, right? This is like Nazi Europe territory already. And so like the only other thing that would be even worse somehow would be like an international Interpol or security like a security group organization to come in and also assist and facilitate, because we are losing our strength in numbers in all government agencies, where we have like the first responder types, where we're supposed to have like mostly alpha males, and then like a very, very, very small percentage of women that can actually make the actual like the physical and mental checks, or whatever you want to call it. and based off of like actions and not based off of just I'd like a diversity hire. I know that's off to say to people, but like in very important positions, you need to have the right person for the job, the best person for the job. And if it just so happens to navigate towards like one certain biological sex, then who the frig cares, right? The same thing with so many other jobs where like women don't want to have this push for diversity hires, like plumbers or working like in the rigs or even in the like in the infantry, like where you're friggin' like a lot of hard work or being like there's so many different freaking shitty jobs in the world that men do, and women are not screaming at the top of their lungs like, oh, we need to have like more representation there. Like it's just convenient. I'm going on all these tangents, but
despite a military directive that was supposed to prohibit such activities. The January 27th directive stipulated that Canadian Forces vehicles and personnel were to avoid the Ottawa protest, and Royal Canadian Air Force planes were not to fly over the Freedom Convoy demonstration. But Canadian Special Forces leaders reasoned that they didn't have to follow the military directive since the surveillance plane that they were using was owned by a private defense contractor. So the illegal surveillance of the protesters was already underway for the military, but that wasn't enough for them. Yesterday,
and there was drones. Like I saw this stuff for myself. I was recording it. I was showing. I was waving. Being nice. And so it like you should have security. You should be prepared. So like that, I'm not even that's why I've never even mentioned this here, because I just it's expected. It should be assumed, right? It's a matter of like what you do on the ground, right? Like if there's like an escalation of force and stuff like that, that's done, that makes that an issue, right? Like an escalation of force or excessive. I said use of force, like excessive.
During the inquiry into the merit of the Trudeau government invoking the Emergencies Act, documents revealed a text message conversation between the Commissioner of the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police, and the Commissioner of the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The two even suggested that they move the conversation to a more secure platform that doesn't create a recorded history of the conversation. But their conversation is on the record, and here's what they had to say. The conversation was between OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrique and RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki. What was learned Thursday was that 2 weeks into the ongoing protest and 1 day before Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act for the first time in Canada's history, Lucki asked Carrique for his thoughts on the use of Canadian armed forces for various roles to help manage the standoff with protesting truckers. Lucki texted, "Could you see a role for CAF in any of this? For example, after we secure and it's all back to normal, maybe keeping sites secure or patrolling unmanned POEs, etc." Carrique responded, "The best step for government, I would rather not see CAF playing a role off of government properties. We could use special constables controlled by police for unarmed patrols and an immediate long-term commitment to adequate policing resources to both prevent and respond to these events." Lucki responded, "It's funny you say that, because I was thinking maybe we could use CAF, but in our uniforms as unarmed auxiliaries or special constables to supplement us in teams." It's unclear whether or not this ever happened.
So Brenda Lucki, who I've also given information to, tried to reach out to her on social media and giving her so much scientific, medical, and government data, like never got a response back, and pronouns on her freaking profile, her bio, like they're pushing the woke agenda though. And for her to do this, oh my God, and she's the head of RCMP. She was the head of the RCMP. She resigned. She's not being criminally investigated, although she should be, and in jail. The irony that anyway, it is what it is.
Oh, I'm willing to bet that's exactly what happened. I took a brutal shot to the ribs from one of these thugs. Was that a military soldier who cracked me in the ribs? Okay, I was just brutally attacked. Ow. Ow.
And they weren't doing that to the counter protesters for people that were trying to speak out on mutilating children.
God. Holy. Oh, shit. Oh, God.
And it's carte blanche, right? I've showed Universe 25 and Stanford Prison Experiments, and where you put people in different roles, where they get like a carte blanche, you know what I mean, to play into these roles. They will, like, this is what shows like your true character in life, right? Like how we responded to the pandemic and everything that's else going on with Ukraine and with Israel and with Iran and stuff like that. Like people even calling the friggin' presidential nominee, by the way, a woman, calling for like the death to Iran, like over what was happening with I would say like criminals that attacked Israel and oh my God. But anyway, 90 million friggin' people. Like these people are friggin' crazy, man. They are literally crazy. And they don't even know what they're talking about or what it is that they're actually pushing or yeah, or pushing onto the onto societies, and they never will know. They never will know. And these are the people that are the most protected and secured and privileged and friggin' entitled and just clueless. And all they see is dollar signs, and oh, look at me, I'm on a podium. Oh, look at me, I'm so important. Like, look, I have this title. Get fucked.
Oh, they're getting trampled. Oh, this is brutal. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. There's some sort of gas in the air. I just took a baton to my ribs. That was brutal. Some guy just, oh my God. I think I might have a bruised rib or something. They're advancing again right now.
And there's access to information requests that are put in for things like what was used, like what supplies were used and ordered for the Freedom Convoy, and there's talk about various different gases that were bought, that were purchased by the Canadian Armed Forces. I believe it was like something like $36,000 worth of CS. Anyway.
Now. Told you to move quick, very quick. I gotta get out of here. Oh shit.
Wow.
There's nowhere else to go for these people. Holy shit.
This was a peaceful protest, by the way, just to be clear. And the people that were trying to make this into something that was violent was literally people that were either actors, acting like government, and or actual government. And it is disgusting. And it was people that are pushing extreme leftist commie stuff and woke agendas and stuff like that. And they have these huge counter, like all of this stuff, like even we're Ottawa mayor and Jagmeet, like heads of like even our prime minister is like literally slamming like a peaceful protest with parents, like I was saying, and people that were trying to discuss the science and show the science regarding, you know, irreversible damage done to children, like if you give them like hormone treatments and pills that sterilize them and stuff like that, and then it's not reversible, and don't even want to they don't even want to listen. They don't listen to anyone. They call us fascists. They call us and using like their buddies essentially like to do this stuff. I hope I'm making sense. It's just so infuriating. And this is why like I'm losing so much hope now, and like my days are overwhelming, I'm not gonna lie, because it's so negative and people are still not listening. And people that I even know personally that have literally let me down, so, and it's not even just about me. Again, it's not about me at all, but it's about people I know, my friends, my family, my country that I've invested so much of my life for and sacrificed so much for. And it's like there's literally no one helping me. And men that have been on like shows where they get a public platform, especially in the US and stuff like that, because we're so censored in Canada, like they've fled. Okay, they don't even give a shit about Canada. Like the first chance that they got to leave, and they're leaving people like me in this sinking ship essentially, because I'm not gonna flee. You know, I've even had videos on it, like how like men who flee their countries are freaking cowards. You know what I mean? If there's still stuff that you can do within to peacefully, obviously, to get things to change, right? Like and no. And so like it's just overwhelming. Like, what's the point? Like Viva Frey, he's in friggin' Florida. Like I can't, people I can't mention now, but because they're so in the security industry, but like they're like friggin' all over like the US. Like it's just they've just abandoned us, and it's just so infuriating. Other names, Dallas. Like Pete, you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing in friggin' what are you doing like doing counter protests against like innocent civilians when they're literally funding your friggin' paycheck?
What the fuck? Dude, what the fuck?
What's up?
And then you've got people too, like I'm going on all these tangents, like men in Canada that are either like famous bodybuilder types and or like they have a large platform that they can also discuss this stuff with, and they won't because they're afraid of getting censored. I'm like, well, you know what? Like this is why you need to actually fight and resist in a peaceful way and actually talk about this stuff and get it out there, right? Because you of all people should be the one that's holding the friggin' line. You're a grown-ass man. You're supposed to be a big, strong friggin' grown-ass man. You're too afraid to talk about information because it might get you censored and blah, blah, blah. Like, you need to help. right? And when I'm offering people information and I'm trying to reach out to people, you know what I mean, and still like network and put myself out there and give people information that may or may not make me look even friggin' crazy, you know what I mean? But even though it's scientific, medical, and government data, like they're just dismissing it, like and it's so weak to me, and it's frustrating, and it's not like I'm giving this information to like women to like, you know, and maybe that's sexist, like to push it out there. It's mostly men, because like I feel like men in this country are the ones that should be stepping up more, and the women more like me, which is like more of the extreme right on the end of the behavioral spectrum and stuff like that for a woman, and my interests and hobbies and strength and all that other stuff. But and then the like and then my academic interests and stuff like that too. Where was I going with this stuff? I don't know.
Holy shit. Holy. This is some of the most heavy-handed police I've seen. Folks, it was brutal what happened to us in February at the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa. A peaceful, legitimate protest that was infiltrated by agent provocateurs, undercover cops, and undercover military soldiers.
Just like January 6th. And I even said that again, and I know I keep saying it, but like even Alex Jones and InfoWars and Donald Trump and stuff like that, they were involved and then doing like their own scripts and roles in like various places in the inside and the outside of the Capitol buildings, and like even with like law enforcement, fake ones too. Like I've shared this already. Take a look at Wooz News, WOOZ as well, and you'll see all of the all the actors and. Yeah.
And if you guys thought that was bad, who could forget about this? Canadian military fake.
So if people knew about this stuff, and I was able to speak even before the friggin' Freedom Convoy hit Canada, or sorry, hit Ottawa, if I was, for example, on Joe Rogan or friggin', you know, whatever, I could be like, hey, here's like what happened with 9/11 and with January 6th, and this is what they're planning essentially for this. You know what I mean? I can't predict all the friggin' roles, but like I can tell you like what I believe this script will be, because it's always very similar to the other ones. And then it could have been something that was prevented, right? Like even to begin with. And so this would have been good for literally everyone. and then, or if people within government, within cabinet and the health experts and stuff like that, if they would have actually considered the information that academics, experts in their fields were actually giving them, because they were refusing to look at people's work. And because they were just trying to push the vaccines for profit. And if you look at Novavax, well, all the companies, Moderna and Pfizer and stuff like that, their shares went through the roof. Look at before the pandemic, their shares, and then look afterwards, and it's just and this is not, you're not supposed to profit off of a pandemic. That's conflict of interest, and like they were like government subsidized and stuff like that, and so like there shouldn't be any profit in this at all. So any of this profit from the shares that they got should be going back to the countries that purchased these therapeutics from them.
Wolves fear campaign exposed, but you won't believe what they're doing next. The Canadian military has been caught using psychological warfare to scare their own people into believing that there was an immediate threat from wolves in the area. They even went so far as to install loudspeakers that would produce wolf sounds in order to fully sell the threat to the people of Nova Scotia. And now, on the heels of being caught manipulating the public, the Canadian government just announced that they will soon be creating a new organization to use propaganda and other techniques to influence Canadians. In this video, Dan Dixon Press for Truth explains how this propaganda will work and is working, and its intended goals, and what you can do to help stop the spread of government-sponsored misinformation. A very important video to watch, my friends. If you haven't seen that one yet, be sure to check it out. Links will be located in the description below. So, needless to say, the military cannot be trusted, my friends. They use propaganda. They use fear tactics on an unsuspecting population.
Okay, so I hate when people say that, because again, like of my service with the military, an infantry officer, part of that, first female Patricia officer in the history of the regiment. I like to have like the full courses and stuff like that, and badged by the regimental colonel and stuff like that too. Once I graduated from my Phase 4 infantry, and I still, when I'm gainfully employed with contracts right now, again I'm in between contracts, but is with military as well, and I speak with people like that are in the military, people that haven't shut me out. There's not a lot of them left, and though unfortunately, but people that haven't shut me out with the military, they and they're very trustworthy, right? So like people that are still serving, and it's unfortunate too, because these are people that have also tried to get the information that I've been sharing with them up the up the ranks, or whatever you want to call it, and people like Wayne Eyre, who I've even emailed personally, from secure email address and stuff like that, giving him like the medical scientific government data, the stuff that I've sent to the ombudsman, like the memorandums that I was putting in place from like the soldiers, just to give him access to like what like his soldiers were getting, right? Like the data, and absolutely did not, like, absolutely refused to look at any of that. Like he literally went like on his own wrong path, and he's the one right now that's crippling the military, right? There's been a lot of people that were kicked out because of the mandates, released because of it. And even in the last few years too, with the standards, like even the physical fitness standards, like these have been, it's causing huge impacts on on our forces, and the ability to operate like even at a basic level, unfortunately. And it's getting worse. Like even the retention rate is bad, but also people are not wanting to even join, and which is unfortunate. And so like when you get leaders like this, like why is his personal evaluation reports, like his PERs and his PDRs, why how is he not fired yet? Like Wayne Eyre, like another person that should resign, but they ever resign? No. Like even with Trudeau, like how many petitions have people signed to get him to resign over the years? And people like that don't willingly step down, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen. And so peacefully, like he needs to be forced out. Like there needs to be investigations finally put into him. So anyone that's like doing like this freaking petty investigation stuff on people like Helen Bruce, who's an actual hero, and people like me, why don't you take that time and invest it in all this other stuff? Why don't you take the time that you're investing in propaganda and misleading people and threatening people and faking friggin' wolf shit? Like, why don't you take that and actually like invest it where, like, in better places, like investigating people like Trudeau and Marco Mendicino, Theresa Tam, Patty Hajdu, Vera Etches, Omar Alghabra, and countless others.
Manipulation for the purposes of control. And they wear costumes to trick you into being controlled. So step away from the system, my friends. Know who your enemy is, and take matters into your own hands by becoming the one thing that they fear the most: a free, independent human being who is self-sustainable and unreliable.
But yeah, he's some really great videos. I highly recommend people take a look at his work. And again, don't take the baby out with the bathwater. So if you don't believe in everything he says, like no one ever is going to get it completely right. But he's pretty close. I want to see if you can still see. Okay. I'm going to present another video because I keep on going on these friggin' minutes. Is it this one that I wanted to? Maybe this one.
As Israel declares a all-out state of war after this Hamas attack, they say intelligence official said that This is Dan Dixie reporting for Press for Truth with breaking news. Egypt intelligence official says that Israel ignored repeated warnings of something big. Mounting questions over Israel's massive intelligence failure to anticipate and prepare for a surprise Hamas assault were compounded Monday when an Egyptian intelligence official said that Jerusalem had ignored repeated warnings that the Gaza-based terror group was planning something big, which included an apparent direct notice from Cairo's intelligence minister to the prime minister. We're hearing now from the Wall Street Journal that Iran helped Hamas plot this Israel attack over several weeks, and now videos are starting out to come out showing how Hamas trained to slaughter from the skies. Terror group shows how it rehearsed this deadly Israel paraglider attack with mock-up buildings marked with the Jewish Star of David. And here is footage of their training operations that has now been revealed. And folks, if you...
So those are terrorists, right? Those are criminals, to be clear. So that they don't represent like the innocent civilians in Palestine or in Iran. Like, to be clear, like there are clearly mentally unwell people that do disgusting things like that. And I wanted to get onto this there was that massive like suicide pact that happened in the US decades ago. And before everyone drank like the poison Kool-Aid, which is why like you're drinking the Kool-Aid, like that's actually where it was derived from. But they actually did mock-up rehearsals even prior to that day, just to make sure that like people were legit going to drink the drink, and then then to kill, or whatever you want to call it, people that didn't follow and or outcast the people that wouldn't drink the Kool-Aid.
You think that the Israeli intelligence, aka the Mossad, one of the most highly sophisticated intelligence operations in the world, was just caught off guard here by this surprise sneak attack? You know, that they weren't.
So why is that sick? Is like people didn't know like when it would be like the real, time that they would be drinking a lethal drink. And so like, this is also sick and twisted, right? When you put people through these, and there are also like terrorists, unfortunately, that did this, Middle East, like in examples, and in Africa too, and other countries as well, like during various times. But with the torturing people, but like having that, like where they were like heavily medicated, but they would have them come out. I'm being so freaking gruesome, but it's disgusting, and people need to know this freaking information, guys. We need to freaking talk about this stuff because it's just, but and just pretend to slit their throats. And so like people like they never knew when it was actually going to happen or not. And this was over a series of like extended periods of time, right? And so like it's just sick and twisted what people do. And this is why it would be nice if we had people that knew about this that are actually in friggin' government, and not these low-level cops, no offense, that are going after people for low-level things when there's really friggin' big things on the go right now.
Aware of any of this training that was going on, that they didn't know there was an attack being plotted over several weeks. If you don't find it strange that they ignored a warning of something big coming from Egypt's intelligence officials, well, you're just not paying close enough attention, or perhaps you're being distracted by choosing a side in this debate, which is all by design as well. So we're going to talk about that, folks. As Israel's military might is about to obliterate Hamas now, 300 tanks, 600 warplanes, 173,000 troops, all primed for payback against the terrorists, with cars lining the streets as 300,000 reservists register to fight. We now have U.S. sending a carrier strike group closer to Israel, and they're going to begin supplying munitions starting on Sunday. This was yesterday, guys. Today is Monday. Well, as of today, 9 U.S. citizens are officially dead in Israel conflict, according to the National Security Council, and Israel is now ordering a total siege of Gaza. The Canadian people have responded as Israel declares a all-out state of war after this Hamas attack. They say, we fear what's coming in the days.
There's obviously been like significantly more alleged casualties than that, and even a Canadian 33-year-old man, last name Look, also was there and allegedly passed away as well. And his parents were talked to, but again, are these crisis actors or not? Like, I have not confirmed this. You don't see none of that stuff. And so how can you confirm when there's been people that have literally died about people that are their loved ones lying about it on national TV, and then like there's even then you'll see them like in another town or another area, and they're again like on TV talking about like some other random like person that they love like being in some kind of like a traumatic death experience, and like with just like different hair, or different makeup, and oh my God, it's annoying.
That will bring. We fear what the coming days will bring. And the Canadian people are actually upset right now with Justin Trudeau for his unwavered support of Israel, not realizing that, when we were going through these things back in 2017, back in 2014, back in 2012, it was the conservative leader, Stephen Harper, who was in his full unwavered support for Israel. So, liberals, conservatives, doesn't matter in Canada. That's the alliance that they have chosen here. And what is all of this leading to, ladies and gentlemen, when we know that Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, and the likes have been created by the criminal intelligence within the intelligence communities, like the CIA, like the Mossad? When we realize this bigger picture scenario here, we can see what this is all leading towards.
So Kennedy Jr., anyway, he's running now as an independent in the U.S. And so you've got the Democratic and Republican Party, but now independent, which is a good move. But again, is he another actor? You know what I mean? Is he also like someone that's part of like the big like final stage of World War III and a possible fake and staged planned alien invasion, even though it's not a thing? Stuff like I would like to talk about with this current cabinet, but they don't answer fucking phone calls or emails,
folks. And what it's leading towards is these warmongers who are starting to push for U.S. involvement in Iran.
I've even sent messages like over LinkedIn and stuff like that, and I'm not saying anything crazy, right? I'm literally giving I've written so many freaking emails in my life, like as I was an officer, like a million a freaking day, and even unit wide or even beyond that, and or even brigade level, like because I was the brigade embarkation officer at points too, and so. Like you have to be very, good with your emails, and I'm not saying that it was perfect, but the information on the cut that I was giving them was based on facts.
Following this Hamas attack, there is a much bigger picture that we have to look at here when it comes not to the Israelis versus the Palestinians, but when it comes to the East versus the West in an ongoing escalating war that is now starting to really ramp into overdrive, guys. We're going to talk about all of this and so much more in this video. But really quickly, before we do, I'd ask that you check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. If you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information here, you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can contribute Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies located in the description below. Thank you so much. Talking about how we are essentially being manipulated by the mainstream propaganda wing of the military-industrial complex that is manipulating people to be pinned against one another, and that we have to always remember moving forward that this is a banksters' war created by banksters for banksters. In fact, I also released this video way back in 2017. Proof the Rothschilds purchased Jerusalem and created Israel. By the way, guys, anytime you ever see on my website an old video that used to be on YouTube and is no longer there, it would take me forever to go through all of this and to correct it all. But if you ever see this, you can take the title of this video, you can go to altcensored.com, put it in there, and you'll find it. And here is that report: proof the Rothschilds purchased Jerusalem and created Israel. And in this video, I show you the video footage of Rothschild himself, you know, discussing the Balfour Declaration and talking about how his family was responsible for the, you know, essentially, you know, creating Israel, as the title suggests. But furthermore, I show you a document that I have in my possession from the 1800s, a Niles Weekly Register, which talks about how the Rothschilds have purchased Jerusalem and how they are planning on the rebuilding of the temple. We're talking about literal biblical times, ladies and gentlemen, and I do mean that literally, and we'll get into.
That's what I've been talking about for the last few years. Like I thought it was going to be like, again, because of certain groups exploit prophecies. And so like and that's why like he's getting at I think he's going to talk about like the temple being rebuilt.
But here, if you haven't seen this, guys, check out my report, Proof the Rothschilds Purchased Jerusalem and Created Israel. And I have the documents to prove it. And just look at what's happening as these banksters are continuing to ramp up the global economic war. I mean, we can't forget the BRICS nations who just recently met in South Africa, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, all coming together to undermine the US dollar as a global reserve currency. This is, again, look, Russia and China.
I think there's like 30 countries now and counting.
China are involved in this, in undermining the US dollar. So that's the real bigger picture. That's the big scope of what we have to remember is this is all boiling down to today, is an epic battle of the East versus the West. Israel and its allies like the US and Canada joining together against the big bad threat of Iran, who will be, you know, allied with, you know, China in Russia.
Except the G7, of the G7 countries, 2 were missing on like the NATO, like their freaking doctrine, whatever they just came out with, and it was Canada and Japan were the only countries that were left off that freaking list. Not looking good, guys. This is why I'm like so salty in the last 24 hours that I'm like venting on freaking social media, like on live freaking Instagram things and stories and calling people out and like freaking blocking people, like fuck you, you know what I mean? Like this is your fault. It's not their fault, you know what I mean? Like that, so it's like you had the chance or the opportunity to help so much more than you did, and you didn't, and now we're here.
Marching into a global third world war. I don't want to sound like some sort of alarmist, but like I said, all this stuff has quite literally been prophesized in the Bible. Now, you guys may be saying, Dan, the Bible, come on, you know, stick to the facts. Well, guess what? The fact is, the Bible is the #1 selling book of all time. Nothing even comes close to comparing. Wars have been fought over it. It's been controversial and debated for thousands of years, and it's unique in that no other religious text out there contains biblical prophecy, which has been written down and has come true. Buddhism doesn't, you know, get into this. The Hindu Vedas doesn't do this. The Quran doesn't do this. The Bible is the only one that has historical, proven prophecies, like how it was written thousands of years ago, that the Jewish people would be.
So again, like I'm thinking like that like he was already wrong, right? Like I'm thinking like the Hopi tribe and like so many other like different like religions, you know what I mean, where they actually do talk about historical events and stuff like that. So
scattered from their homeland, and that God would eventually bring them back from where they were scattered, unite their homeland into a nation in a single.
Like the Mayans, come on, okay, I'll stop.
And exactly that happened back in 1948. We've already seen some of the things that were written come about, which means some of the things that have yet to come about. You can better believe that we're going to see these things coming too. So when we see the world now being so divided.
Okay, so like I was watching this with you, and I don't know. I think that if we select a religion as it is on this earth plane right now, currently, and how they're being interpreted, like I don't think we're getting it. Like I think that they all have really good lessons, and they're all talking essentially about the same thing, which is astronomy. I'm sorry, not just astronomy, but also about like how to be like a good person and how to have like the most fulfilling life on this earth plane. But let me see. I wanted to because like I'm also like having people that are arguing with me about this Earth being a globe. They're not giving any proof at all. I'm giving countless facts. They're not even looking at it. And it just is what it is. I'm like, oh, you're giving videos. Why don't you give publications? I did. I did. Oh, and what are you giving out? Like I'm giving so much facts, like and not just videos. And the videos I'm giving are ones that I've deemed very interesting and ones that you're not going to get online with your own searches. No offense, especially in Canada, and especially if you're not on a virtual private network where you can select which different countries to view from. I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to share a video that I'm talking about, one that I like. The Earth curve calculator, you can literally go online yourself and do the Earth curve calculator, put in like the measurements and stuff like that, like your eye level and stuff like that, and the distance, and then it'll actually plug in, which is 8 inches per mile squared, like what you would supposed to be seeing, like the object that you're viewing, like how far beyond the curve it is. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work because it's a flat Earth. Sonar. Oh, okay, so like, let's see. This is a really good YouTube channel. I love it. Um, let's see here. If there's anything that's interesting. People are in online watching. If there's anything in here that you see that you would like me to pull up, let me know and I will. Have I shown this one before? The 20 proofs SNAS effect in the meetings. I think I might have. So you also want to notice why there's like more airplanes in the sky and with the contrails and in other, particles and stuff like that that are released in the air in order to get these particles absorb the like the water or whatever you want to call it within the atmosphere, and it's creating clouds very clearly. We see it all the freaking time, and it's actually causing rain and snow and stuff like that as well. Which is just like it is what it is, but it's because of what they're putting out there. And take a look at this stuff, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason why they're obscuring us from seeing like the sun and the friggin' moon by the clouds and stuff like that is because like then you can track this stuff more. And yeah. Oh my God, you weren't even seeing it.
System must have a solid bearing.
So that means you also didn't hear it either. Damn it! And like, how long did I go in? Oh my God, 3 minutes in. Okay, so I'm gonna play this again so you can see it.
On clear days, you can
Sorry,
see for
I'm
yourself
doing this
during
stuff
a
again. I'm
waxing
just
or
like,
waning cycle, the blue sky through the moon.
I'm just going through stuff. So like, I'm definitely not at 100%. Oh, and I haven't even talked to another human being, and I don't even know how long. And again, it's just been like a lot of negative content and stuff. And like, I'm getting so frustrated because it's like Groundhog Day all the time, and no one that has the ability to offer like an olive branch or what do you want to call it has done so yet. And now I just freaking I'm just like I'm next, right? So like even Roman Babar, for example, he's someone that I even like I went like to a pub to meet him because he's part of the Conservative Party and put myself out there to actually do that. And what he was saying, like it was like coming across as just like fake, right? And so like that was frustrating me as well because like you're there and it just seemed like he didn't even know what he was talking about, right? And so so I had said so I spoke up, you know what I mean? And again, like this is like not stuff that's easy for people to like speak in friggin' public, you know what I mean? Especially when it can possibly be televised and stuff like that. And he like he sat with me and I gave him my number and stuff like that. And then I tried to follow up and never once since. And so I've tried to give him information, you know, because of there's stuff that he said online, like on his social media, where he's coming from a good place, but he's also inaccurate with what he's sharing and or not like intentionally, you know, pushing speaking points that are not going to help Canada. It's not helping us, right? And it's part of the friggin' script, unfortunately, as well. And it's been like that's been like over a year now. So like, you know what? Like now, like go fuck yourself. You know, like good luck. You know, and it is what it is. And so I put myself out there, and I'm not getting any olive branches. Like, and I've gone so many freaking directions, and it's just like, and unfortunately, like in these positions, like it's all friggin' men, and which is also making me a little bitter. And anyway, it is what it is. But
On clear nights,
so
during a waxing or waning cycle, it is possible to see stars directly through the surface of the moon. And during each new moon, the moon completely disappears from view and remains invisible for that 1 day per month. Even members of the Royal Astronomical Society have time and again recorded their confusion at being able to see stars directly through the moon. For example, Sir James South of the Royal Observatory in Kensington wrote that, quote, "On my first looking into the telescope, a star of about the 7th magnitude was some minutes of a degree distant from the moon's dark limb. I saw that its occultation by the moon was inevitable, but the star, instead of disappearing the moment the moon's edge came in contact with it, apparently glided on the moon's dark face, as if it had been seen through a transparent moon, or as if a star were between me and the moon. I have seen a similar apparent projection several times. The cause of this phenomenon is involved in impenetrable mystery." A star occulting a crescent moon has long been a popular symbol of Islam, was the symbol of the Ottoman Empire, is found on the flags of Algeria, Azerbaijan, Libya, Malaysia, Mauritania, Pakistan, Singapore, Tunisia, Turkey, and in the coat of arms of countries from Croatia to Germany, Ireland, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Sweden, Ukraine, and the United Kingdom. Nowadays, however, thanks to decades of NASA propaganda, people believe against the evidence of their own senses that the moon is a physical terra firma planetoid capable of walking on. 2. Basic physics proves that not only has man never flown to the moon, but that the entire concept of a vacuum of space is impossible. NASA and modern astronomy claim that the Earth's atmosphere spins perfectly along with the Earth up to an indeterminate height where it allegedly meets the vacuum of space. Anyone who has punctured an aerosol canister knows, however, that a positive pressure system adjacent to a negative pressure system must have a solid barrier separating them, or else they will equilibrate. Furthermore, at ground level, this spinning atmosphere supposedly travels around 1,000 miles per hour and increases in speed with altitude, so that by 250 miles high, where they claim the International Space Station orbits, the atmosphere and everything in it are allegedly traveling a ridiculous 17,500 miles per hour, the speed of a bullet. This means the astronauts in their rockets were traveling faster than a speeding bullet when finally they popped out of the Earth's spinning, pressurized atmosphere and into the non-spinning, non-pressurized, non-atmosphere of the vacuum of space. Even if they could somehow survive such a transition, once in the supposed vacuum of space, it would be impossible to continue steering, because all propulsion systems require the air in the atmosphere to push against. In a vacuum, there is no such counterforce, so all propulsion, rather than sending the rocket forward, would instead send it spinning wildly and randomly out of control. In recent years, NASA has attempted damage control regarding this issue by now claiming that the moon is actually still within the Earth's atmosphere. But this doesn't change the fact that they stood by this impossible claim for decades. 3. The amount of radiation claimed to exist in space, especially through the so-called Van Allen belt, was far too strong for the astronauts' flimsy suits. Starting at an altitude of 1,000 miles up to approximately 15,000 miles, NASA claims there exists a deadly band of radiation that would kill or seriously injure anyone passing through in a matter of minutes. One Russian study stated that the amount of radiation present on the moon would require astronauts to be clothed in 4 feet of lead in order to avoid instant death. John Molden, a NASA physicist, said they would need at least 2 meters of thick shielding around them at all times, yet we see them on film bouncing around the moon in their 2-inch thin suits. Even James Van Allen himself continued to state until his death in 2006 that there was no way humans could survive the 90-minute journey through and another 90-minute journey back through the radiation belt without being completely encased in thick lead shielding. 4. Temperatures on the moon supposedly range from 279 degrees below zero during the nighttime, which is far colder than even Antarctica's coldest winter, and up to 243 degrees above zero at lunar midday, which is hotter than boiling water. NASA claims their special suits were fitted with both heating and cooling systems, but nothing which could come close to withstanding these incredible temperatures. The suits were also supposedly pressurized to keep the vacuum non-pressure of space from bursting their blood vessels, but they clearly have deep creases and wrinkles all over. Astronauts in true pressurized suits would look like the Michelin Man, bubbling out and very inflexible. Also, it is impossible for the Kodak film in their cameras to have survived these extreme temperatures without melting or freezing. 5. In images from Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin can be seen wearing different color gloves and different length boots in pictures that were supposedly taken within minutes of each other.
I think I may have shared this before, so I'm sorry if I have, but for anyone new.
For example, in photo AS11405873, Aldrin is wearing high boots and dark gray gloves. But just 2 pictures later, in AS11405875, he has changed into smaller boots and white gloves. If Buzz was really in the vacuum of space in a pressurized spacesuit, he certainly would not have had time or reason to depressurize and repressurize his suit just to make these fashion adjustments. 6. None of the Apollo missions brought any extra studio lighting with them on the lunar lander, so the sun should be the only light source on the moon and in all pictures taken there. In this case, the light should only come from one direction and all shadows should be cast in the opposite direction. However, in dozens of official NASA photos, there are shadows being cast in up to 3 directions simultaneously, often at up to 90-degree angles, which can only be the result of multiple.
So this is a really good video. And that's Eric Dubay talking. A lot of people slam him. Joe Rogan slams him, so do other people, but he's doing it on purpose, right? They want to make you seem like you'd be stupid to take a look at them or listen to them, or you'd be stupid to believe this guy, you know? And he's a freaking genius. And so you're getting duped by comedians into not, diving into the actual reality of the freaking world, which is annoying. So here's his channel. I went to the most popular. I highly recommend people take a look at this. The best flat earth documentary. Once internet comes back on. It's over 6 hours long. But it's so informative. And you could pause it obviously and go back to things again, stop things and verify for yourself and stuff like that. So it could take you like several days to get through this or several weeks. But you should at least consider this before you just completely wipe it away from your agenda to look at, because you're really like you are stopping your evolution.
865,374 miles across, 109 times wider than the Earth, and contrary to all.
Even without the sun, look how they make it seem, right? And does it look freaking red in the sky? Does it look 93 freaking million miles away, 150 miles away, million miles away? No.
Experience, experiments, and common sense that we revolve around it. They say the moon is 2,159 miles across, a quarter the size of the Earth, and why they appear the same size is because the moon is only 238,000 miles away, while the sun is an unfathomable 93 million miles away from the Earth. And these just happen to be the exact diameters and distances necessary for a viewer from Earth to falsely perceive them.
So this is at like 1.5 speed. And so if you want to listen to Eric Dubay, he speaks slow and eloquent and very succinct, and so like that's why he's slower with his words. And people are like, "Oh, his voice is so annoying." Well, then suck it up. Who cares? Put it on like a faster speed to get through it. You know what I mean? But listen to this information. Like, don't discredit information that is it literally is going to help you.
As being the same size. You don't say. Lactantius, in his On the False Wisdom of the Philosophers, wrote, A sphere where people on the other side live with their feet above their heads, where rain, snow, and hail fall upwards, where trees and crops grow upside down, and the sky is lower than the ground. The ancient wonder of the hanging gardens of Babylon dwindle into nothing in comparison to the fields, seas, towns, and mountains that pagan philosophers believe to be hanging from the earth without support. David Wardlaw Scott wrote, I confess that I cannot imagine how any human being in his proper senses can believe that the sun is stationary when, with his own eyes, he sees it revolving around the heavens, nor how he can believe that the earth on which he stands is whirling with the speed of lightning around the sun when he feels not the slightest motion. We have been taught that those tiny pinpricks of light in the night sky known as planets or wandering stars are actually physical, globular, Earth-like habitations millions of miles away. We have even been shown supposed video footage of the one called Mars. We have been taught that the tiny pinpricks of light in the sky known as the fixed stars are actually distant suns trillions of miles away, each
See, that is a more accurate, and that's what, like, when you're using, like, even like the high end equipment that you're buying on friggin' online and at the stores and stuff like that, they're still using like convex, like curved lens and fisheye lens, and so you're going to be getting like the illusion of a sphere with the shadows and stuff like that by virtue of that. And so there are people that have proved this with a flat lens that that it's actually more of a like a vibrating, like anyways, I've shared it before, like I might share it after this, but it's what Eric's showing right now. It's all like that.
complete with their own solar systems, orbiting moons, and Earth-like planets which potentially harbor alien life. We have been taught that the moon has no light of its own, but is merely a reflector of the sun's light, that some masons from NASA actually walked on the moon, that some other masons from NASA sent rovers to Mars, that satellites and space stations are incessantly spinning in suspended animation above the Earth, that Hubble telescopes are taking snapshots of distant planets, galaxies, stars, quasars, black holes, wormholes, and other fantastic celestial phenomena. We have been taught that our ignorant ancient ancestors for millennia falsely believed the Earth to be the flat, immovable center of the universe. But thanks to modern science and its Masonic prophets like Copernicus, Newton, Galileo, Collins, Aldrin, and Armstrong, we now believe the world to be a giant whirling sea-Earth globe careening through infinite space. Thomas Winship wrote, modern astronomical teaching affirms that the world we live on is a globe, which rotates, revolves, and spins away in space at brain-reeling rates of speed, that the sun is 1.5 million times the volume of the Earth globe and nearly 100 million miles distant from it, that the moon is about 1/4 the size of the Earth, that it receives all its light from the sun, and is thus only a reflector and not a giver of light, that it attracts the body of the Earth and thus causes the tides,
Oh yeah.
that the stars are worlds and suns, some of them equal
Sorry. So look, every single, like, I've shared so many different videos. You're not like, they if you look at the live feeds and stuff like that, what comes up must go down. And there's so many different examples of like these, sorry, my dogs are playing in the background. So, yeah, it's going up and then back down.
in importance to our own sun himself and others vastly his superior, that these worlds inhabited by sentient beings are without numbers and occupy space boundless in extent and illimitable in duration, the whole of these interlaced bodies being subject to and supported by universal gravitation, the foundation and father of the whole fabric. To fanciful minds and theoretical speculators,
And the low orbit, I don't know if he talks about this in this, like in this satellites, they utilize helium. They're like the biggest purchasers, like of helium there is NASA and like and RASA and IS, like these organizations, and they use these huge freaking balloons, huge, where they're even going off of like these aircraft carriers, and that's where the satellites are that's how they're moving in low orbit Earth and not going beyond the dome.
the so-called science of modern astronomy furnishes a field unsurpassed in any science for the unrestrained license of the imagination, and the building up of a complicated conjuration of absurdities, such as to overawe the simpleton and make him gape with wonder, to deceive even those who truly believe their assumptions to be facts. We have been taught that science books like Newton's Principia Mathematica, which propound spherical heliocentric myth, are the bearers of truth, while backwater religious books like the Bible, which propound a flat geocentric Earth, are merely outdated myths. We have been taught that the universe was unintelligently designed and randomly created in a cosmic coincidence of nothing inexplicably becoming everything. We have been taught that through millions upon millions of years of accidental evolution and happenstance, the Big Bang universe began manifesting suns, moons, planets, then water. Then somehow out of dead inert elements, single-celled conscious organisms came to life, grew and multiplied and mutated into larger different organisms, which continued to grow, multiply, and mutate, gaining diversity and complexity, and losing credibility, to the point where amphibians crawled up on land, replaced gills with lungs, started breathing air, maturated into mammals, became bipedal, grew opposable thumbs, evolved into monkeys. Then in one final fluke adaptation, a hybrid monkey man was made, and the rest is human history. Thomas Winship wrote, Put together all the imaginary exploits in the air, specially written to interest the young. Add to this all the wonderful adventures of airships recorded in The Daughter of the Revolution, and tack on to this all the wild and impossible things found in current libraries of fiction, and I venture to say that the grand total will record nothing so utterly impossible or so supremely ridiculous as this modern scientific
The United Nations, this is their map, World Meteorological Organization, International Civil Aviation Organization, International Maritime Organization.
delusion of a globe spinning away in space in several different directions at the same time at rates of speed which no man is able to grasp, with the inhabitants, some hanging heads down and others at various angles to suit the inclination. Write down all the swindles that ever were perpetrated. Name
Gravity's holding us up and the water up and stuff like that. Really? Really? Is it? No, I don't think so. I don't think it is. Like, even the fact, I don't even know if he gets into this, but even the fact that, like, what is it, like 70% of the world being water? That in and itself makes this impossible to be a friggin' globe, because water seeks level, ladies and gentlemen.
all the hoaxes you ever heard or read about. Include all of the impostures and bubbles ever exposed. Make a list of all the snares that popular credulity could ever be exposed to, and you will fail in getting within sight or hearing of an imposture so gross, a hoax so ingenious, or a bubble of such gigantic proportions as has been perpetrated and forced upon unthinking multitudes in the name of science, and as proved incontrovertible fact by the expounders of modern astronomy. Again and again have their theories been combated and exposed, but as often have the majority who did not think for themselves accepted the popular thing. We have been taught that the height of stupidity and naivety was when our ignorant ancestors believed the earth to be flat, and that if any man somehow still thinks the earth to be the immovable center of the universe, that they must be the most primitive kind of ignoramus. Nowadays, the label flat earther has become literally synonymous with moron and is a common cliche derogatory term for insulting someone's intelligence.
Yep.
Upon
Yeah, and I don't understand why. Like, I mean, I do, because it's part of the psyops. Like, that's the reaction that they want people to have, and it's just unfortunate because I get it all the time, and people are so hurt, like hateful, and they're just given carte blanche to be as rude and as awful as they want to be, and they just use it, right? And I get so much vile toxicity geared towards me on a regular basis, and I'm literally just someone that's trying to give information to help.
seeing a book titled The Flat Earth Conspiracy, your ingrained instinct was likely to laugh, mock the messenger, and deny the very possibility. Marshall Hall said, "What strikes you as being some thoughts that people would have if, in the short space of a few weeks, the universally held conviction that the Earth rotates on an axis daily and orbits the Sun annually were exposed as an unscientific deception? Keep in mind that a rotating, orbiting Earth is not counted as a mere hypothesis or even a theory anywhere in the world today. Oh no, rather, this concept is an unquestioned truth, an established fact in all books and other media everywhere, church media included. Copernicanism, in short, is a concept that is protected in a bunker under a 50-foot thick ceiling of solid scientific concrete. It is meant to be impregnable. It is a concept that has become ensconced in men's minds as the indestructible cornerstone of enlightened modern man's knowledge. Virtually all people everywhere have been taught to believe, and do believe, that this concept is based on objective science and dispassionate secular reasoning." B. Chasbro wrote, 99 people out of 100 would give the same answer to the interrogation, and that same answer would be to the effect that the Earth is a globe which revolves around the Sun. The 99 who makes this reply would do it because they know it to be the case. How do they know it? Let this question be put to them, and they will bestow upon you a withering smile of pity at what they conceive to be an imbecility of mind on your part, and answer you in something like the following style. "It has always been so. We learnt it at school. Clever men say so, and look how astronomers can foretell eclipses," and then lose their temper at the very idea of the globular theory being incorrect, and a haughty, "There can be no doubt about it," will close all they have to say on the subject. Now, if the ears of these 99 could only be gained, they would be shown in an irresistible manner that the philosophy which would speak of a round and revolving world is a false philosophy. Ancient civilizations the world over believed Earth to be the flat, immovable center of the universe, around which the heavens revolved daily cycles in perfect circles. This stable geocentric universe, proven true by experience and experiments, which reigned undisputed for thousands of years, adequately explaining all earthly and celestial phenomena, was violently uprooted, spun around, and sent flying through infinite space by a cabal of sun-worshipping theoretical astronomers. Early Masonic magicians like Copernicus, Kepler, Galileo, and Newton, along with their modern Masonic astronaut counterparts like Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, hand in hand with NASA and world Freemasonry, have pulled off the greatest hoax, propagated the most phenomenal lie, and perpetuated the most complete indoctrination in history. Over the course of 500 years, using everything from books, magazines, and television to computer-generated imaging, A multi-generational conspiracy has succeeded in the minds of the masses to pick up the fixed Earth, shape it into a ball, spin it in circles, and throw it around the sun. In schools where every professor's desk is adorned with a spinning Earth globe, we are lectured on the heliocentric theory of the universe, shown images of ball planets, and videos of men suspended in space. The illusion created, connivingly convincing, has entranced the world's population into blindly believing a maleficent myth. The greatest cover-up of all time, NASA and Freemasonry's biggest secret, is that we are living on a plane, not a planet, that Earth is the flat, stationary center of the universe.
I don't think it's just
Lady Blunt
NASA.
wrote, "We are told."
I think there's other organizations that are also like involved in this stuff, like UN, like the World Health Organization, like even the Red Cross, believe it or not, and WEF, obviously that's a fairly obvious one, the World Economic Forum. And
told that though the Earth has the appearance of being a vast plain with the sun moving high above and over the Earth, that what we see is a deception. It is an optical illusion, for it is not the sun that moves, but the Earth, with the sea and all that in them is, in the form of a globe, whizzing with terrific rapidity round the sun, located millions of miles away, its mean distance being assumed to be 91 millions of miles, and that the Earth travels at a rate of 68,000 miles an hour, or 19 miles every second. Alan Daves said, "If the government or NASA had said to you that the Earth is stationary, imagine that. And then imagine we are trying to convince people that no, it's not stationary. It's moving forward at 32 times rifle bullet speed and spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. We would be laughed at. We would have so many people telling us, you are crazy. The Earth's not moving. We would be ridiculed for having no scientific backing for this convoluted moving Earth theory.
believe your
Not
own
only that,
senses.
but then people would say, oh, then how do you explain a fixed calm atmosphere and the sun's observable movement? How do you explain that? Imagine saying to people, no, the atmosphere is moving also, but is somehow magically velcroed to the moving Earth. The reason is not simply because the Earth is stationary. So what we are actually doing is what makes sense. We are saying that the moving Earth theory is nonsense. The stationary Earth theory makes sense, and we are being ridiculed. You've got to picture it being the other way around to realize just how ridiculous this situation is. This theory from the government and NASA that the Earth is rotating and orbiting and leaning over and wobbling is absolute nonsense, and yet people are clinging to it tightly, like a teddy bear. They just can't bring themselves to face the possibility that the Earth is stationary, though all the evidence shows it. We feel no movement. The atmosphere hasn't been blown away. We see the sun move from east to west. Everything can be explained by a motionless Earth without bringing in all these assumptions to cover up previous assumptions gone bad. If the Earth were truly a spinning ball orbiting the sun, there are several tests and experiments which could be and have been conducted to prove or disprove the veracity of such a claim. For example, Danish astronomer Tycho Brahe famously argued against the heliocentric theory in his time, positing that if the Earth revolved in an orbit around the sun, the change in relative position of the stars after 6 months of orbital motion could not fail to be seen. He argued that the stars should seem to separate as we approach and come together as we recede. In actual fact, however, almost 200 million miles of supposed orbit around the sun, and not a single inch of parallax can be detected in the stars. Thomas Winship wrote, if the Earth is at a given point in space on, say, January 1st, and according to present-day science, at a distance of 190 million miles from that point 6 months afterwards, it follows that the relative position and directions of the stars will have greatly changed, however small the angle of parallax may be. That this great change is nowhere apparent and has...
Okay, so I did get a comment, and so I just wanted to, I'm going to keep this playing again. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. And then, because there's different ways that people can interpret Hebrew, and NASA came up, and this has been discussed before. People say that it doesn't mean to deceive. And so I would love it if people would just like cite references if they're going to do stuff like that, because even just like a simple 1-second search, I'm looking at the like Hebrew lexicon, like NASA. I'm literally, I haven't edited anything. And it says to beguile, to deceive, to deceive. And so anyway, it is what it is. And that's such a small argument. So that in itself shouldn't take people away from the fact that NASA is still lying to us about the reality of space and the Earth, right? And the sun and the moon and stuff like that. And anyway, I just wanted to share that. There's different ways to interpret it. And so I'm sure, I think it also means to lift. Literally depends on the the interpretation that you want to use. It's very, very hard with Hebrew, obviously, but even with the rib, it actually meant side. And so even the way people translate Hebrew again is incorrect, even with Bible translations and stuff like that. And
has never been observed incontestably proves that the Earth is at rest, that it does not move in an orbit around the sun. Samuel Rowbotham wrote, "Take 2 carefully bored metallic tubes, not less than 6 feet in length, and place them 1 yard asunder on the opposite sides of a wooden frame or a solid block of wood or stone. So adjust them that their centers of axes of vision shall be perfectly parallel to each other. Now direct them to the plane of some notable fixed star a few seconds."
And I've shared this before, but I'm going to keep our debate going. But like I'll show you even stuff from NASA publications and Army publications, because I do share the work that I cite and reference, just to keep a tally of it. But I always have to copy and paste it back in. Let's see which one I want to give here. Is that the NASA one? That is one too, but I'll give you a specifically archive PDF. And so the people that with the globe Earth stuff, like if you don't even have access to what I'm going to be sharing with you right now, then why do you keep hating? like if you don't even know your own model. Actually, I'll share. Sorry. It's a PDF. It's archived, NASA archived. You can take a look at this yourself. And so I just Control F. See, like sometimes you don't get to see the search result, but look here, flat non-rotating Earth. So for all the friggin' equations, they're using a flat non-rotating Earth, and I don't care what people's excuses are. It's right there, and I've got multiple other NASA publications that I could share. But I really want to get onto this video as well, which is very interesting.
Previous to its meridian time. Let an observer be stationed at each tube, and the moment the star appears in the first tube, let a loud knock or other signal be given, to be repeated by the observer at the second tube when he first sees the same star. A distinct period of time will elapse between the signals given. The signals will follow each other in very rapid succession, but still the time between is sufficient to show that the same star is not visible at the same moment by 2 parallel lines of sight when only 1 yard asunder. A slight inclination of the second tube towards the first tube would be required for the star to be seen through both tubes at the same instant. Let the tubes remain in their position for 6 months, at the end of which time the same observation or experiment will produce the same results. The star will be visible at the same meridian time without the slightest alteration being required in the direction of the tubes, from which it is concluded that if the Earth had moved 1 single yard in an orbit through space, there would at least be observed the slight inclination of the tube, which the difference in position of 1 yard had previously required. But as no such difference in the direction of the tube is required, the conclusion is unavoidable, that in 6 months a given meridian upon the Earth's surface does not move a single yard, and therefore that the Earth has not the slightest degree of orbital motion. When Tycho Brahe demonstrated that after 190 million miles of supposed orbit around the Sun, not a single inch of parallax could be detected, desperate heliocentrists, instead of conceding, doubled down, claiming the stars were all actually trillions upon trillions of miles away from us, so distant that no appreciable parallax could ever be detected. This convenient explanation, which heliocentrists have clung to for centuries, has proven satisfactory to silence the uninquisitive minds of the masses, but still fails to adequately address many observable phenomena, such as our wildly implausible synchronization with Polaris. William Carpenter wrote, "The idea that the Earth, if it were a globe, could possibly move in an orbit of hundreds of millions of miles with such exactitude that the crosshairs in a telescope fixed on its surface would appear to glide gently over a star millions of miles away is simply monstrous. Whereas with a fixed telescope, it matters not the distance of the stars, though we suppose them to be as far off as the astronomer supposes them to be, for as Mr. Richard Proctor himself says, the further away they are, the less they will seem to shift. Why, in the name of common sense, should observers have to fix their telescopes on solid stone bases so that they should not move a hair's breadth if the Earth on which they fix them moves at the rate of 19 miles in a second? Indeed, to believe that Mr. Proctor's mass of 6,000 million tons is rolling, surging, flying, darting on through space forever with a velocity compared with which a shot from a cannon is a very slow coach, with such unerring accuracy that a telescope fixed on granite pillars in an observatory will not enable a lynx-eyed astronomer to detect a variation in its onward motion of the thousandth part of a hair's breadth, is to conceive a miracle compared with which all the miracles on record put together would sink into utter insignificance. Captain R.J. Morrison, the late compiler of Zadkiel's Almanac, says, "We declare that this motion is all mere bosh, and that the arguments which uphold it are, when examined with an eye that seeks for truth, mere nonsense and childish absurdity." Another experiment repeatedly performed to disprove Earth's supposed rotation under our feet is firing cannonballs vertically and horizontally in all cardinal directions. If the Earth were truly spinning eastwards underneath us, as the heliocentric model suggests, then vertically fired cannonballs should fall significantly due west. In actual fact, though, whenever this has been tested, vertically fired cannonballs perfectly aimed with a plumb line, lit with a slow match, shoot upwards an average of 14 seconds ascending, 14 seconds descending, and fall back to the ground no more than 2 feet away from the cannon, sometimes directly back into the muzzle. If the Earth were actually spinning at the supposed rate of 600 to 700 miles per hour at the mid-latitudes of England and America, where the tests have been
So he's going in the, I don't know if you already said it, but the Coriolis effect.
performed, the cannonballs should fall a full 8,400 feet, or over a mile and a half, behind the cannon. Again, at this point, instead of conceding, desperate heliocentrists triple down, claiming the reason cannonballs fall straight back is because the magical properties of gravity allow Earth to somehow drag the entire lower atmosphere in perfect synchronization with its axial spin, rendering even such breakneck speeds completely unnoticeable to the observer and unmeasurable by experimentation. This highly implausible, though clever and convenient explanation only holds for vertically fired cannons, however. If cannons are instead fired and measured in all cardinal directions, even the heliocentrist's atmospheric Velcro trump card becomes unplayable. North-south firing cannonballs establish a control, then east-firing cannonballs should fall significantly farther than all others, and west-firing cannonballs should fall significantly closer due to the supposed 1,000-mile-per-hour eastward rotation of the Earth. In actual fact, however, regardless of which direction cannons are fired, north, south, east, or west, the distance covered is always the same. Dr. Samuel Robotham wrote, "When sitting in a rapidly moving railway carriage, let a spring gun be fired forward, or in the direction in which the train is moving. Again, let the same gun be fired, but in the opposite direction, and it will be found that the ball or other projectile will always go farther in the first case than in the latter. If a person leaps backward from a horse in full gallop, he cannot jump so great a distance as he can by jumping forward. Leaping from a moving sledge, coach, or other object backwards or forwards, the same results are experienced. Many other practical cases could be cited to show that any body projected from another body in motion does not exhibit the same behavior as it does when projected from a body at rest. Nor are the results the same when projected in the same direction as that in which the body moves, as when projected in the opposite direction, because in the former case, the projected body receives its momentum from the projectile force plus that given to it by the moving body, and in the latter case, this momentum minus that of the moving body. Hence, it would be found that if the Earth is moving rapidly from west to east, a cannon fired in due easterly direction would send a ball to a greater distance than it would if fired in a due westerly direction. But the most experienced artillerymen, many of whom have had great practice both at home and abroad in almost every latitude, have declared that no difference whatsoever is observable, that in charging and pointing their guns, no difference in the working is ever required. Gunners in warships have noticed a considerable difference in the results of their firing from guns at the bow when sailing rapidly toward the object fired at, and when firing from guns placed at the stern while sailing away from the object, and in both cases, the results are different to those observed when firing from a ship at perfect rest. These details of practical experience are utterly incompatible with the supposition of a revolving Earth." William Carpenter wrote, "It is in evidence that if a projectile be fired from a rapidly moving body in an opposite direction to that in which the body is going, it will fall short of the distance at which it would reach the ground if fired in the direction of motion. Now, since the Earth is said to move at the rate of 19 miles in a second of time from east to west, it would make all the difference imaginable if the gun were fired in an opposite direction. But as in practice there is not the slightest difference whichever way the thing may be done, we have a forcible overthrow of all the fancies relative to the motion of the Earth." During the Crimean War, the subject of artillery fire in connection with the Earth's rotation became a hotly discussed topic among military men, scientists, philosophers, and statesmen. Around this time, on December 20th, 1857, British Prime Minister Lord Palmerston wrote to the Secretary of War, Lord Panmure, stating, "There is an investigation which it would be important, and at the same time easy to make, and that is, whether the rotation of the Earth on its axis has any effect on the curve of a cannonball in its flight. One should suppose that it has, and that while the cannonball is flying in the air, impelled by the gunpowder, in a straight line from the cannon's mouth, the ball would not follow the rotation of the Earth in the same manner which it would if lying at rest on the Earth's surface. If this be so, a ball fired in the meridional direction, that is to say, due south or due north, ought to deviate to the west of the object at which it was aimed, because during the time of flight, that object will have gone to the east somewhat faster than the cannonball will have done. The trial might be easily made in any place in which a free circle of a mile or more radius could be obtained, and a cannon placed in the center of that circle, and fired alternately north, south, east, and west, with equal charges, would afford the means of ascertaining whether each shot flew the same distance or not. Several such experiments have since been performed and shown that projectiles fired in various directions on Earth's surface always cover comparable distances with no appreciable difference whatsoever. These results are entirely against the theory of a rotating, revolving world and serve as direct empirical evidence for the stationary Earth. More evidence, similar to the cannonball experiment, is found in helicopters and airplanes. If the Earth were spinning several hundred miles per hour beneath our feet, helicopter pilots and hot air balloonists should be able to simply ascend straight up, hover, and wait for their lateral destinations to reach them. Since such a thing has never happened in the history of aeronautics, however, haughty heliocentrists must once again rely on Newton's magical atmospheric Velcro, claiming the lower atmosphere, up to an undetermined height, somewhere above the reach of helicopters, hot air balloons, and anything not built by NASA, is pulled perfectly along with the rotating Earth, rendering such experiments moot. Granting heliocentrists their atmospheric glue supposition helps them dismiss the results of vertically fired cannonball experiments, but does not and cannot help them explain away the results of horizontal cardinally fired cannonballs. Similarly, granting them their magic Velcro helps dismiss the results of hovering helicopter and hot air balloon experiments, but does not and cannot explain away the results of airplanes flying in cardinal directions. For instance, if both the Earth and its lower atmosphere are supposedly rotating together eastwards 1,038 miles per hour at the equator, then airplane pilots would need to make an extra 1,038 mile per hour compensation acceleration when flying westwards. North and southbound pilots would by necessity have to set diagonal courses to compensate. Since no such compensations are ever necessary, except in the imaginations of astronomers, it follows that the Earth does not move. Gabrielle Henriette wrote, "If flying had been invented at the time of Copernicus, there is no doubt that he would have soon realized that his contention regarding the rotation of the Earth was wrong, on account of the relation existing between the speed of an aircraft and that of the Earth's rotation. The distance covered by an aircraft would be reduced or increased by the speed of the rotation according to whether such aircraft traveled in the same direction or against it. Thus, if the Earth rotates, as it is said, at 1,000 miles an hour, and a plane flies in the same direction at only 500 miles, it is obvious that its place of destination will be farther removed every minute. On the other hand, if flying took place in the direction opposite to that of the rotation, a distance of 1,500 miles would be covered in 1 hour, instead of 500, since the speed of the rotation is to be added to that of the plane. It could also be pointed out that such a flying speed of 1,000 miles an hour, which is supposed to be that of the Earth's rotation, has recently been achieved, so that an aircraft flying at this rate in the same direction as that of the rotation could not cover any ground at all. It would remain suspended in midair over the spot from which it took off. Since both speeds are equal, there would, in addition, be no need to fly from one place to another situated on the same latitude. The aircraft could just rise and wait for the desired country to arrive in the ordinary course of the rotation, and then land. The heliocentric theory, literally flying in the face of direct observation, experimental evidence, and common sense, maintains that the ball Earth is spinning around its axis at 1,000 miles per hour, revolving around the Sun at 67,000 miles per hour, while the entire solar system rotates around the Milky Way galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour, and the Milky Way speeds through the ever-expanding universe at over 670 million miles per hour, yet no one in history has ever felt a thing. We can feel the slightest breeze on a summer's day, but never one iota of air displacement from these incredible speeds. Heliocentrists claim with a straight face that their ball Earth spins at a constant velocity, dragging the atmosphere in such a manner as to perfectly cancel all centrifugal, gravitational, and inertial forces, so we do not feel the tiniest bit of motion, perturbation, wind, or air resistance. Such backpedaling, damage control, reverse engineered explanations certainly stretch the limits of credibility in the imagination, leaving much to be desired by discerning minds. David Wardlaw Scott wrote, "Dear reader, do you feel the motion? I trow not, for if you did, you would not so quietly be reading my book. I doubt not you have been, like myself, on a railway platform when an express train rushed wildly past at the rate of 65 miles per hour, when the concussion of the air almost knocked you down. But how much more terrible would be the shock of the Earth's calculated motion 1,000 times faster than the speed of the railway express? Thomas Winship wrote, "Let imagination picture to the mind what force air would have, which was set in motion by a spherical body of 8,000 miles in diameter, which in 1 hour was spinning round 1,000 miles per hour, rushing through space at 65,000 miles per hour, and gyrating across the heavens. Then let conjecture endeavor to discover whether the inhabitants on such a globe could keep their hair on. If the Earth globe rotates on its axis at the terrific rate of 1,000 miles per hour, such an immense mass would of necessity cause a tremendous rush of wind in the space it occupied. The wind would go all one way, and anything like clouds which got within the sphere of influence of the rotating sphere would have to go the same way. The fact that the Earth is at rest is proved by kite flying. If the Earth and atmosphere are constantly revolving eastwards at 1,000 miles per hour, how is it that clouds, wind, and weather patterns casually and unpredictably go every which way, often traveling in opposing directions simultaneously? Why can we feel the slightest westward breeze, but not the Earth's incredible supposed 1,000 mile per hour eastward spin? And how is it that the magic Velcro of gravity is strong enough to drag miles of Earth's atmosphere along, but weak enough to allow little bugs, birds, clouds, and planes to travel freely unabated in any direction? David Wardlaw Scott wrote, "What about the lark, which at early morn soars aloft, trilling
And I guess like the birds are flying upside down too, right?
its lays of luscious melody? Why was it not swept away in the tumultuous atmosphere? But it still continues singing in happy ignorance of any commotion in the heavens. Who has not noticed on a calm summer day the thistledown floating listlessly in the air, and the smoke ascending straight as an arrow from the peasant's cottage? Would not such light things as thistledown and smoke have to obey the impulse and go with the earth also? But they do not." Dr. Samuel Robotham wrote, "If the atmosphere rushes forward from west to east continually, we are again obliged to conclude that whatever floats or is suspended in it at any altitude must of necessity partake of its eastward motion. A piece of cork or any other body floating in still water will be motionless, but let the water be put in motion in any direction whatever, and the floating bodies will move with it, in the same direction and with the same velocity. Let the experiment be tried in every possible way, and these results will invariably follow. Hence, if the Earth's atmosphere is in constant motion from west to east, all the different strata which are known to exist in it, and all the various kinds of clouds and vapors which float in it, must of mechanical necessity move rapidly eastwards. But what is the fact? If we fix upon any star as a standard or datum outside the visible atmosphere, we may sometimes observe a stratum of clouds going for hours together in a direction the very opposite to that in which the Earth is supposed to be moving. Not only may a stratum of clouds be seen moving rapidly from east to west, but at the same moment, other strata may often be seen moving from north to south, or from south to north. It is a fact well known to aeronauts that several strata of atmospheric air are often moving in as many different directions at the same time. On almost any moonlit and cloudy night, different strata may be seen not only moving in different directions, but at the same time moving with different velocities, some floating past the face of the moon rapidly and uniformly, and others passing gently along, sometimes becoming stationary, then starting fitfully into motion, and often standing still for minutes together." In his book South Sea Voyages, Arctic and Antarctic explorer Sir James Clark Ross described his experience on the night of November 27, 1839, and his conclusion that the Earth must be motionless. "The sky being very clear, the planet Venus was seen near the zenith, notwithstanding the brightness of the meridian sun. It enabled us to observe the higher stratum of clouds to be moving in an exactly opposite direction to that of the wind, a circumstance which is frequently recorded in our meteorological journal, both in the northeast and southeast trades, and has also been observed by former voyagers. Captain Basil Hall witnessed it from the summit of the peak of Tenerife, and Count Strzelecki, on ascending the volcanic mountain of Carenia in Oahe, reached at 4,000 feet, an elevation above that of the trade wind, and experienced the influence of an opposite current of air of a different hygrometric and thermometric condition. Count Strzelecki further informed me of the following seemingly anomalous circumstance: that at the height of 6,000 feet, he found the current of air blowing at right angles to both the lower strata, also of a different hydrometric and thermometric condition, but warmer than the inner stratum. Such a state of the atmosphere is compatible only with the fact which other evidence has demonstrated, that the Earth is at rest." William Carpenter wrote, "It is a well-known fact that clouds are continually seen moving in all manner of direction. Yes, and frequently in different directions at the same time, from west to east being as frequent a direction as any other. Now, if the Earth were a globe revolving through space west to east at a rate of 19 miles in a second, the clouds appearing to us to move towards the east would have to move quicker than 19 miles in a second to be thus seen, whilst those which appear to be moving in the opposite direction would have no necessity to be moving at all, since the motion of the Earth would be more than sufficient to cause that appearance. but it only takes a little common sense to show us that it is the clouds that move, just as they appear to do, and that therefore the Earth is motionless. Heliocentrists believe the world beneath their feet is spinning at a mind-numbing 1,038 miles per hour at the equator, while perfectly pulling the entire atmosphere along for the ride. Meanwhile, at the mid-latitudes of USA and Europe, they believe the world and atmosphere spin around 900 to 700 miles per hour, decreasing gradually all the way down to 0 miles per hour at the North and South Poles, where the stagnant atmosphere apparently never moves, completely escaping the grips of gravity's magic Velcro. This means at all latitudes, every inch of the way, the atmosphere manages to perfectly coincide with the supposed speed of the Earth, compensating from 0 miles per hour at the poles all the way up to 1,038 miles per hour at the equator, and every speed in between. These are all lofty assumptions heliocentrists make without any experimental evidence to back them up. Marshall Hall said, "In short, the sun, moon, and stars are actually doing precisely what everyone throughout all history has seen them do. We do not believe what our eyes tell us because we have been taught a counterfeit system which demands that we believe what has never been confirmed by observation and experiment. That counterfeit system demands that the Earth rotate on an axis every 24 hours at a speed of over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. No.
Okay, so I'm at an hour 45-ish. I can continue this documentary, whatever you want to call it, tomorrow or the next day. I highly recommend people take a look at it. It's the Best Flat Earth documentary, Eric Dubé's channel, and he's a really nice person. Again, I haven't met him personally. We've chatted a little bit on social media just because we're both flat earthers, obviously, and like running like stuff past each other. And yeah, he's like he does yoga, like he's a very spiritual person. I believe that I don't know if he's vegetarian or vegan, but like an animal lover and works for charities. And so like a really like overall like someone like is a yeah like a good person. You know what I mean? Seems like it. And so I really hope that people take a look at this work and not just get dismissed, not just dismiss it because of people like Joe Rogan and Alex Jones and people like Trevor Valley have like no friggin' idea what he's talking about. And the only reason why they're being so mean to this guy is because like he's debunking what they're talking about. He's refuting what they're talking about. And they're profiting off of the lies, right? So whether they want to admit it or not, and this is what's frustrating because there are people that put their lives on the line on a regular basis to try to like unfuck what's going on. And these people are just, oh, I have a family, I have this, I have that. Yeah, but your family's not going to have a family if you don't figure it out, right? And actually like take your platform or like the opportunity that you have, the position that you have in life and like in like right now peacefully and discuss this stuff and share this information, or at least be open to having a debate or discussion with people from the other side, right? And so like Joe Rogan, like why has he not brought on Eric Dubé before, or Santos Bonacci? Well, I can understand now, maybe not Santos Bonacci because of like just the last 24 hours. Anyway, I send him like best wishes and love and stuff like that. He's sharing a lot of information. But yeah, he's advocating for stuff that I do not agree with. And so it is what it is. Where was I going with that stuff? Yeah, and Sean Ryan and Russell Brand, like these people, like they're still playing scripts and they're still refusing to have the courage to get the information out that really will actually change the world and our perceptions of it. It will make people by defect, or by default rather, like more spiritual and people that would believe in a creator, you know, and a god of sorts. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, that's also something that's getting completely pushed away from the narrative. So I just anyway, I said I was going to stop this video. People like me are willing to debate this stuff and discuss it. And why is it the women? Why are the men not more of the men like that? Eric Dubé sharing this information. What people that can do something. So on that note, I will leave it at that. And I really hope that people start taking a look at the flat simulation Earth stuff and consider the people that I'm actually like this, like the people, like the names I'm giving you, the books I'm giving you, the references I'm giving you, and not just dismiss it because like I'm not coming from a bad place here. I think this is useful information and for you, but also for future generations because like if they can dupe us on this, like this is why we're being duped on so many other like international wide scale events, it's because they think we're idiots, and or they think we're just too cowardly to even discuss this stuff. And they're right, that people are too cowardly that have platforms or positions. They're too cowardly to address this stuff, bring it up, have discussions about it, have debates about it. What is wrong with that? It's like, it's not a life or death situation here. Like, can you not have a conversation with someone, and just at least like open the doors to like actually consider the information they're sharing if they're very passionate about it, and actually do have like a credible resume, right? And background and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm just all over the place. I'm just exhausted, and it feels like Groundhog Day. And yeah, anyways, I hope that everyone has a wonderful day. That's all I got right now.